Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Manchester United podcast. I'm your host for this evening, Niall Hannigan, and I'm joined by Kieran McGinley. Kieran, how's it going?
Going pretty well, yeah. Helped the fact that we got a point. And it's a point more than I thought we were going to get, especially after Arsenal's drubbing of PSV. But yeah, I'll take it.
Absolutely. And we always kind of seem to put up a bit of a fight in these big games. And that was exactly what happened, maybe for 45 minutes of that. But yeah, plenty to unpack. Myself and Tom were on yesterday. A bit of a raw reaction to the match yesterday evening. But yeah, you were saying you were flying back from Ireland, and you took a little look at the phone when you landed and said, "I think this is a bit too good to be true."
I thought I'd landed in another time zone. I was like, "Hang on a minute, no, this can't be right." But no, managed to sort of catch up on what happened, and I'll just start by saying it's a great free kick. Questions asked to the wall. Questions asked to the keeper, but take nothing away that Fernandes, that's a great free kick. And 2 on the bounce for him so far this season. He's now on 7 goals for the season. So he's now our top goal scorer in the Premier League. You love to see it.
I know. It's embarrassing, really, isn't it? 7 goals. Yeah.
I tried to put a positive spin on it, and I realised as soon as I said 7 goals.
Yeah. You did say about a lot of, conviction, though. So, it sounds good, but then when you actually listen and you hear 7, it's like, oh, yeah, that's actually quite concerning. But yeah, great free kick. Actually, after we recorded last night, I saw Christian Eriksen's post-match interview, and he was like, they were describing the goal, and he was like, it helps when the wall was 15 meters back. So he was loving it, and I think he probably wanted to be on the free kick when he saw how far the wall was back. But yeah, I mean, it makes a massive difference. You don't just need to get the ball up as high and up and down as quickly. But Raya was so questionable as well. I mean, even looking at it before the free kick, you thought he was a bit far over, and he did kind of creep a yard on the run up, but yeah, just so far away from it. But as you said, we're going to take nothing away from the goal because they're few and far between, and we're going to take it when we get it.
We've scored a goal. Yeah. Excellent. No, I think I kind of felt for Arsenal a little bit because it was our first shot on target, and it happened to be a free kick from a wall that was a little bit too far. It's amazing what a yard of a difference can do, but it makes it easier, as you said, to get the ball over the wall in the first place. And I think at that point, if you're an Arsenal fan, you're turning around and thinking, well, great, brilliant. This couldn't have gone any worse if we tried. But to be honest with you, I think Arsenal, from the balance of the game, should have been at least 2 up in that first half. They were all over us, but they just weren't finding the back of the net for whatever reason. And it was a game where I don't think we were particularly excellent. I just think Arsenal had an off day against us, which has been happening quite frequently. We haven't won against Arsenal in quite some time. And I had to look back at the last time we had beaten Arsenal in a league game, or at least in all competitions. Obviously, when we say unbeaten, we're obviously meaning 90 minutes and that's that. It's cup competition, that's that. But we're winless in our last 6 games against Arsenal, which is 2 draws and 4 losses. And that's our longest run since April 1999. Again, it's another, we are making history, but for all the wrong reasons and for all the wrong teams. It's like, oh no. On a positive note, though, Fernandes has now been directly involved in 25 plus goals in each of his last 3 seasons for Manchester United. For this, he's had 12 goals and 13 assists in all competitions this season, and only one of 3 players to have done so for a Premier League club in 22-23, 23-24 and 24-25. Any guesses as to who they could be, those 2 mystery players in the league?
They're below him, or who's done it before?
Above him. Yeah,
above him.
Well, the same as him, 25 plus.
This season, or over
in the last 3 seasons? God, I'll give you a clue. One of them's about to win a Premier League.
Yeah, Salah's one of them.
Yeah, Salah's one of them.
Is it goals and assists, is it?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to say Haaland because he might have got a couple of tap-in assists there, but
it is. And that's courtesy of the analyst as well. Possibly my favourite place for just niche facts, and I love that. I love a niche fact.
Yeah, the analyst is our third guest on these tactics Tuesdays, to be fair.
Honestly,
yeah.
It's a great place.
We need to get like an AI voice for the analyst so that they can read off these stats. But then Kieran will be out of a job. So
I would be. Otherwise, what would I actually talk about? I know nothing. So no, I think you get to half time in this game, and we're lucky to be up. And although I was on a play when it happened, it was just a case of, no, that can't be right. That's a typo, isn't it? Surely not.
Yeah, still on airplane mode. Yeah, I was surprised as well because, I mean, we were really, really bad in the first half. And I mean, the energy when the free kick went in, the place just lifted and you're thinking, oh, like, should we just, I wish this happened 10 minutes earlier and kind of push on from here. But then in a way, I was also happy that they just went into the changing room. You know, you can look at it both ways where it's either the worst time to score or the best time to score. But we scored, which is any time's a good time these days. So it was great. And to be fair to them, they did maintain that energy and the application into the second half. Like, they were excellent. They created a lot more chances, even though we had 30-something% possession. We had probably more XG actually, and I'm not a big fan of that stat in general. But when it's in favor of United, I'll talk about it all day, every day. But I mean, it was clear because, you know, you mentioned in the first half that Arsenal dominated and didn't really create any chances. That's been kind of a big issue for them over the past few months, and the whole talk around Arsenal is not being able to sign a striker to kind of put all those good kind of pieces of play together and to actually put it into the back of the net. Because, you know, from the back line through to midfield, they're really good at recycling the ball, creating kind of sustained pressure, but don't really create any clear-cut chances. And United were the complete opposite, where they were kind of living off scraps, would get a bit of a chance and just kind of gambled with a few balls into the box. And they really did pay off in terms of great chances, but Raya was too good, I suppose.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Raya had one of those games where in open play, you weren't getting past him. Whatever you did, no matter what the shot was going to be, he keeps out that Mazraoui shot, and you just think, well, it's just no beating him today.
Yeah.
Summed it up by Fernandes' shot, which, you know, it cannons off him. He makes that save, and it's up in the air, it's spinning, it could go anywhere, and he just claws it off the line. And you think, well, yeah, that sums up the second half. We had the chances. And it's not that we didn't take them, it's that we couldn't. I think we could have easily been 2 or 3 up of this game had we faced anyone other than Raya, who has been great for Arsenal. He's had his ups and downs this season especially, and called into question sometimes his positioning, his decision-making when it comes to defending set pieces. But from open play, his shot stopping is fantastic. He's one of the toughest keepers to beat. And, you know, it took a free kick to beat him. And that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, some of those chances, like the Mazraoui one in particular, like we talked about it yesterday as well, but it was actually an incredible kind of finish from Mazraoui. Kept it low and hard off a kind of first time volley from a Dallo cross, one of the ones that did find its target, and Raya stuck out the leg and just pushed a pass around the post. And you kind of just thought at that stage we needed the second goal to make sure we were going to win that game, because Arsenal were still kind of dominating the ball. And you just kind of had that sinking feeling that they were going to score eventually. And then towards the end, it kind of turned into, let's just make sure that we get something out of the game, even though we did have a couple of chances. So, yeah, as you said, just one of those days, I suppose. And yeah, Raya doing his best Alisson impression during that game. But anyway, let's take a quick break there, and I'll be back with a bit more coverage of the match of the weekend.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Kieran, I think we have to talk about Bruno. You know, you rattled off a couple of stats there that he's done over the last couple of years, and since he's kind of been at the club, he's been our best player and most consistent player and player that's ran around the most. And yes, he's been, I suppose, conflicting, and people have had different ideas of him, and whether his leadership style is a bit different to maybe traditional leadership styles. But in terms of actually showing up for United when we badly need someone, and yes, we are 14th, 15th in the league, but if we didn't have him, where would we be?
And that's the worrying thing, isn't it? I mean, when he arrived in that sort of winter 2020, was it 50 odd million pounds? Maybe it was euros at that point, but either way, what a turnaround. He in our recent history, he's been the best signing Man United have made. And look, I'm just looking at it now, 285 appearances in all competitions, I think this is, 93 goals. It really has been a case of, where would we be without him? We would probably be, especially this season, looking at a relegation dogfight.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned before how I think he's the closest player that we have that is world class. And I'm very stingy when it comes to world class. How would you define that? You've got to be top 5 at least in your position, maybe even top 4, top 3. I don't think Bruno's there, but in terms of the raw talent he has and the ability for him to change a game, he's got it in abundance. He's definitely one of our best players and has been for some time. And you would think a team like that, managers would come in and build the team around Fernandes. And it's just not worked like that. And I'm trying to scratch my head and get my head around why that hasn't happened.
Yeah, it is really interesting because even when you go back to maybe that squad under Ollie and you looked at that attacking kind of options that we had and even the midfield options as well, they're just, if you go through personnel and player by player, it's just way better. Like, Bruno doesn't stand out as much in that. Obviously, he's one of our best players even during that time, but now it's like he's the only hope for anything, for someone to make a big tackle, for someone to play a through ball, for someone to actually finish first time, outside the box, inside the box, free kicks like we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Everyone's just kind of stops and looking at him and hoping for something that he would do. It's like that scene from The Incredibles. They're just hoping, just the wee kid looking at Mr. Incredible, hoping he does something amazing in front of him, because all the players are just kind of looking around for that inspiration. And when the confidence of the team is so low, you need someone who kind of has that good arrogance and fearlessness in a way, thinking, well, I probably am the best technical player on the pitch and I actually can do something about it, and to actually be brave enough to make those calls, because he's looking around as well thinking, who else is going to do it?
Well, that's it as well. It's one thing to know you're the best player on the team. It's another thing when you're handed the captain's armband and you are expected to lead this team through thick and thin. And it really has been both ends of that spectrum, especially in the last year or so. And as you said, his leadership qualities have been under fire, especially this season. I think he's done okay. Would I have picked him as the captain? Maybe not. But then again, I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know how much of a raw impact he has in the dressing room. And that's where the manager will know where that impact is being held. And managers have come through. I think it was Eric Ten Hag who stripped Maguire of the captaincy, if I'm remembering correctly. So in that period of time, it's taken Fernandes to step in, to be that leader that everyone needs. And I mean, there hasn't been the leadership struggle. I think Maguire has understood that maybe he's not the best candidate. In fact, Amram's come in and he's almost thought the same. He's kept the status quo. He's kept Fernandes as captain. So whether that happens in the next season, I think you would rock the boat too much if you take the captaincy off of Fernandes now. Having 2 captains changes in 2 years is not exactly ideal. But there's clearly something working in the background. There's clearly Fernandes is being a leader in the dressing room, and you almost want who you are as a manager. You want to see that on the pitch. You want to see yourself and your tactics being relayed through a player on the pitch who can lead the rest of the team. And for Amram, Fernandes is that player.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this before. In order to take the captaincy off him, you have to find someone to give it to. And at the moment, there's no options that are kind of screaming at you in terms of, he deserves the armband in a way. So, you'd have to agree that sticking with Bruno at the moment is probably the best decision for himself, but also for the team. But I think one thing that's always been kind of, and a criticism of Bruno that's been said, is that he's kind of ill-disciplined in a way, in terms of, he does whatever he wants within the team and everyone else kind of has to fill in the gaps around him or stick to the structure. And that was very much the case when he was playing in that number 10 role, where, he would go back to the centre halves, or he would kind of just start randomly pressing a left back or something like that and expect everyone else to kind of figure it out around him. But what I've noticed over the past couple of weeks is, now that he is part of that 2 in midfield, and because 2 against 3 against most teams is going to be very difficult, he's playing a lot more disciplined, and he's in that position that he's comfortable with anyway, being deeper, getting on the ball and actually making things happen. And you mentioned that, you want a player to actually embody the manager on the pitch. I think he's really buying into this style and wants it to work for Amram. And he knows that I need to be extremely disciplined to play in this 2 in midfield if I am gonna do this, because everyone's trying to learn that position, and over the next few months they really need to kind of dig in and understand what it is. So I've been very impressed on that sense as well, where he's not kind of running around and looking to randomly press, and also coming up with the goods when it comes to actual goals for us.
I mean, as you said, you want someone who is fully behind your system, and especially when you're bringing in, I wouldn't say it's a radical system, but it's different to what United have had over the past few years. Even if we've had 5 at the back under Louis van Gaal, it's not the 5 at the back that Van Gaal had. It's a much more attacking. Your wing backs are the entire width of your team. So that's the system that's being brought in, and hopefully we see that develop over the summer once Amram has had time. I wouldn't say it's a complicated system, but it's a system that needs discipline. And that's where really the communication is key. Players have got to be on the same wavelength. You've got to have that coverage, especially on the wings. If one wing back is going forward, what does the left-sided midfielder do, etc., etc.? That's all things that come to these players once they've been in this system and once they've got to know each other.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can kind of see more of that as well with some more signings in the summer to kind of really fill in those niche positions that we have, because obviously the likes of Dorgu coming in is great, that he will be a bit of a flyer up and down that left side. And you mentioned that you wanted kind of an attacking area, so we've seen Ahmad in those positions. Do we go even more aggressive on both wings? I suppose that's how the actual formation evolves and the maturity that comes with the squad as well, and see if we can actually get to that. But anyway, enough of the tactics stuff, all that boring stuff. Let's take another break, and I'll be back with a bit more of a random topic.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
So after that draw, obviously we're going to take a bit of encouragement from that, from the Arsenal game. We've got a massive game on Thursday night in the Europa League. Real Sociedad. Kieran, how's the nerves going into that?
I think, there's nerves. I had to think about that. There's nerves, but I think from what we've shown in the previous 2 games, there's something to be encouraged about. I don't know what it is. We're looking okay going forward, and that might be setting the scene and setting me up for failure, which, plaster me all over socials if that is the case. But it seems like there's a bit of a leaf turnover, especially again in the last 2 games. Take away the fact in the first 45 against Arsenal we were nowhere. But I do feel like once we got that goal and we got the wind in our sails, we were looking good. I mean, take the Real Sociedad game in the away leg. We were all over them. Real Sociedad did not turn up until they were awarded a penalty. And from that point, the momentum was fully on their side. So if Real Sociedad can't afford to do that at Old Trafford, and things have not been great at home or away for us this season. Let's be honest. We've thrown away games and we've let teams play their own style at Old Trafford. And that's what's accounted for so many drop points and losses at home this season. We can't let Real Sociedad do that. If they do what they did in the last 20 minutes of that first leg, and they get to do that for a sustained period of time, they're gonna have a field day at Old Trafford. We've got to turn up with the confidence that we had, the attacking vigour that we had against Arsenal in that second half. And the only way that happens is if the confidence builds in the squad. The inconsistency is also where you never know what United team is going to turn up until the ball is kicked. And it might not even be until 15 minutes later you think, oh, it's going to be one of those days. So there's a chance. And we should back ourselves to win in front of Old Trafford. And I would love to get a winner in the Stretford end. I would love Xerxes or Hoyland even to get on the score sheet after 20 odd games. Is it 22 now? I feel for him. If he's the one that gets the goal, so be it. And yeah, there's nothing stopping us from getting to this next round, to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. But it's such a banana skin.
Yeah, it's. I think you hit the nail on the head around the confidence levels of the team. Like, it's just a really fragile set of players at the moment. Like, and that can swing either way. Like, first half, they go into that thinking, oh, it's another day where we're just going to be dominated. We're just going to sit in here and kind of hope for the best. And yes, they defended, with lots of aggression and defended well, but there was no way out. Like, it was like we turn over the ball and then it's a kind of a hopeful diagonal to Garnacho because we didn't have a left wing. Eriksen was playing there. We had no outlet there. So it was mainly on Garnacho's side, on the right-hand side. But then as soon as that goal goes in, completely against the run of play, the players are like, it's like there's this pressure just lifted off them. They're playing with a freedom. They're trying stuff in the final third. They're actually backing themselves in the final third as well, dribbling out with the ball from defense, taking an extra touch when needed. Like, it's very difficult when a team is really struggling to start a game like that, but you really have to nearly fake it in a way to play with that confidence until it actually starts to come off for you. And I hope that this is the time on Thursday, because surely they're coming out of that confident after the Arsenal game. I mean, the amount of chances that we created in the second half, I can't remember the last time we've created a lot of chances like that. Even if we scored more in a game, they were really good chances and they were well worked as well. I particularly like the one we spoke about, the Mazraoui one, but you talk about a formation coming together where a left wing back crosses it over to the right wing back on a counter attack. Like, that's what Amram is looking for, where you have these wing backs that can actually defend, but also have quality in the final third. And yes, they might be completely different personnel in the future, but that system is working. So they have to take some sort of confidence from that. So I'm once again going into it, blind confidence, but I think there's actually something to back it up based off what we saw in the second half there.
Yeah, and the important thing is Tom mentioned yesterday, is when that Arsenal goal went in, yeah, it was a bit deflating, but also I don't think the players really let their heads drop. And that's been such a familiar theme, game after game. We have a goal, we concede, and whether we're winning or we're drawing at the time, our heads drop. And the players just lose that sort of confidence or that momentum for, it could even be the rest of the game. But I didn't really see that against Arsenal. I think in these bigger games against the bigger teams, this team can and do show up. It's going into a game, though, against Real Sociedad where both teams are really struggling this season. Both of them have found sort of mid-table form. Mm-hmm. So for both teams, they will want
We're dreaming of mid-table.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. It's sadly true. Nevertheless, both teams here are looking to make a long run into the Europa League because it's the last trophy, really, that they've got any chance of getting their name on.
Yeah. And Amram said it best. He said, nothing could save our season. not even winning the Europa League, which, I love the rawness of it and just how honest he is as well. Like, he's been so honest since he's come in, and he kind of speaks for all fans as well. Every time he speaks in a press conference, you're like, yeah, there's not too much kind of sugarcoating there, Ruben. Like you've really gotten straight to the point, which I think we all want to kind of have a manager like that. But as long as we can kind of pick up the results, I suppose, then we'll continue to back him. But yeah, it was an interesting one.
I just think though, yes, it's funny right now, and it's a way to sort of humour everybody, but it's also a way to take away from the players. It's almost like he's trying to bring the attention to himself. And as a manager, when it's not going right on the pitch, he's doing the right thing by bringing the media to him. He's almost like all the deflections away from the team, and it's to him. Look, I'm sticking with this tactic. We're going to keep going with this. It's on me. Taking that almost responsibility for the actions of the entire team works when you're being, hit to the ground, because it's taken away from the other players. It's taking away the limelight. So he's doing right there. What can't happen is the brutal honesty, and it's not improving. We can take the brutal honesty for now because, as he's already said, this season's a write-off. We've known that since about December. Christmas, I think. We sort of knew this was it now. This is it. This is where we are. We see you next season. But I think that will wear thin if the results don't come next season. But the Europa League's a perfect time to set the record straight about big games and big competitions and where United stand in that game.
Absolutely. And it's it's a European night at Old Trafford. It should be great. Yes, it's on the wrong day, but it's fine.
It's the wrong theme song, but it's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong, but there's a lot of things as well right as well. But look, we'll look forward to that. Kieran, thank you for joining me on the episode this evening. And yeah, find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're on social media as well. Check us out. Give Kieran some abuse. And we'll see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.